Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to another fantastic episode of SuperShares. My name is Joe Marquez, Director of Academic Innovation for CUE, and we love to bring you SuperShares of amazing things, ideations, innovations, things that are happening inside the classroom, outside the classroom, all surrounding our education realm that we live in each and every day. Speaking of education realm, we are CUE, and as we are CUE, we are going to be having Spring CUE happening in face-to-face fashion in Palm Springs, California, March 17th to 19th. If you have not reserved your spot, please do so quickly. They are filling up fast. All you have to do is go to cue.org/spring to see all the amazing sessions, all the amazing presenters, and all the amazing things that are happening those 3 days. Amazing keynotes, amazing celebrations. We're there to celebrate you, the educators who have made this world go round every day that I can imagine, but also definitely during this pandemic. All right, so let's get started today with our SuperShare episode. Today, we have one of my favorite people in the world from one of our favorite partners in the world. So we have Scott from Ports here. Scott, welcome to the show. Now, we normally do another show together, right? That happens every other Tuesday called History on CUE. We just unveiled our new logo right there, History on CUE. And that's a partnership between CUE and Ports, where we talk about all the different California state parks that our viewers can visit personally. But today we want to talk about Ports in general. What is Ports? How is Ports connected to CUE? And what are all the amazing things your team members of Ports are doing to bring students to nature and nature to students?
A ton of great questions. Thanks, Joe, for getting us started off with so much energy. I'm excited to be talking about Ports here today. My name's Scott Shepard, and I work as K-12 Access Project Coordinator for California State Parks. So really what that means is all my work is focused on how can we increase equitable and sustainable access to California State Parks for K-12 communities. But before I really dive into what Ports is, what California State Parks is, and some of those questions, I just got to say, that shirt is on point. I'm just recognizing it right now. Like, I may have to mute myself in the middle of my presentation today just to benefit from that.
You know, this is a special edition shirt. I made this basically because the entire team, when we're on our Zoom calls, we always have to say you're on mute. So I just tap the shirt. So yeah, special edition made by me in Google Drawing. So nothing special, but it is fun. It is fun.
Epic. I mean, the amazing things that you can do with open access education resources these days, you know, like
absolutely.
Students could be making t-shirts like that. Why not? You know, students could be doing amazing things, and why not do it with California State Parks, you know? So the Ports program stands for Parks Online Resources for Teachers and Students. And we've been around for about 15 years, but a lot of teachers are just learning about us, or maybe they just learned about us over the course of their 2020 to 2021 school year. And that's because we've been providing live, free, virtual field trip experiences to K-12 teachers and students in their virtual and in-person classrooms for over a decade. When the pandemic started, we were already prepped to provide this kind of an experience to teachers and students, to provide them access to our California state parks. And the website's right there on the screen. You can come and visit our website right now and see a whole multitude of ways that teachers and students can engage with us both virtually and in person at California state parks all across the state. But I have a couple of slides that I'll share with you. If you don't mind pulling those up for me, Joe. So really what we're trying to do with Ports is we're trying to reimagine the K-12 school field trip. And what that really means is we want that field trip to be deep and meaningful. We want it to be interconnected with learning that's happening both in and outside the classroom. We want students to feel inspired by the learning that's happening on those virtual and in-person field trips. And we want it to drive their learning, drive teachers' instructional practice. You know, I come from a teaching background myself, and I taught for a number of years in the classroom with K-5 students. And field trips were this incredible opportunity for students to engage in the most student-centered form of learning possible. Just real, true exploration and self-discovery of a new environment. And our California state parks, like this one that you're seeing on the screen right now, Cuyamaca Rancho State Park, are filled with phenomenon that inspire people to wonder. Like when you look at that picture right now, do you notice anything, Joe? Anything you wonder when you see that?
There's that red field in the background. I'm wondering, is that clay? Is that wildflowers? Is it just the sun hitting a lake? What is that red back there in that field?
That's a super awesome question. So that's actually a seasonal lake bed. So what we're looking at right now is kind of approaching the drier season, getting closer to the summertime as the water is starting to kind of get out of, the water level is lowering in the mountains. It's starting to flow down that watershed. And if you were able to see that full picture, what you would see right behind where it says Reimagine the K-12 School Field Trip is the second highest peak in San Diego County, which is called Stonewall Peak, an amazing place to go for a hike out in Cuyamaca Rancho State Park and take advantage of the, natural phenomenon that's out there. But, I always try to ask people how much they know about ports. And Joe, I know you've been working with us for a while, but why don't you tell me a little bit about what your understanding is of ports? And maybe I can clarify some misunderstandings or anything along those lines.
Yeah, so for me, what I know about ports is works with interpreters all across California at the state parks to create educational resources for students to be able to learn about a park in the comfort of their own classroom, in hopes that is a precursor to bringing them to the actual park to learn a little bit more and experience it for themselves. So that, to me, is what ports is.
I think you're spot on, and there's a couple points that I want to clarify, as you mentioned. So, like, one is this word interpreter. So educators all over the state might be wondering, like, what the heck is an interpreter? But educators recognize other educators. So right here, what you see on this picture here in front of you is my good friend Parker Grand out at Refugio State Beach in the Santa Barbara County area.
Yeah, Parker, shout out to Parker. Great guy. Great guy.
Exactly. Amazing interpreter. And really what he is an expert and an educator on the natural, cultural, and historic resources of our parks. So one of the core missions of California State Parks as an institution is to provide experiences, both recreational and interpretive, that inspire our visitors to care for and protect the natural, cultural, and historic resources of our parks. So really, that's what educators like Parker here are there to do. And the word interpreter and the word interpretation is used from this idea of cultural heritage interpretation, really. So like, how do you share the stories of the cultural heritage of a specific region? And then that can also be applied to how can you share the stories of the scientific phenomenon in that park? So I was just sharing with you that dry lake bed, the mountain in the background, that's an interpreter's, ballpark where they're really operating and engaging with teachers and students. And, it's an awesome opportunity. Like I was saying, like you mentioned resources, but ports also provides opportunity. It provides the opportunity to engage in a free, live, virtual field trip experience. And like you said, that can act as a precursor for an in-person experience. That's kind of a revolutionary idea in the eyes of parks. Parks have always provided in-person experiences. Some parks have provided these virtual experiences, but in often most cases, the lines have never crossed between the two. And what we're really trying to do now, as we look to the future and reimagining what this experience is linking that together to make it more deep and meaningful for students. So sorry if I'm talking too much, but I just get so excited about ports.
I can tell how excited you are. And I know our listeners want to know more about this opportunity, how they can use it in their class and how they can get students to these parks as well.
Yeah. And, I'm going to get more into that, but let me just give you a little bit of background. So let's go back in time. I don't want to allude to a specific decade, but I'm going to share a really quick video from really the inception of the ports program.
California state parks contain tremendous biological diversity, priceless cultural resources, and outstanding recreational opportunities, as well as diverse and dedicated workforces and world-class educational prospects. Through this network, we can bring state parks to students with interactive digital video, digital pictures, audio files, documents, and an array of other materials. With the DCP network, children sitting in a classroom in downtown Los Angeles can participate in a guided tour of the State Capitol Museum, although they may never be able to travel there. Children in an Oakland classroom may hear and see State Park scuba divers as they explore the wonders of an underwater park off the coast of Orange County. Rangers in the heart of the desert can guide urban children through a field of wildflowers located miles from the nearest paved road.
Oh, for some reason that clicked out of there for me. I'm going to go back over to my slides.
Well, that video reminds me of just like in the 90s, right? Like in the 90s when the internet was first coming out and all the different ways people were using it. It seems like such a novel idea, right, from back then to where it's come today. So it's very nostalgic for me to watch something like that. Just remember, it reminds me of when I was in like 7th or 8th grade in science class, and they're just playing these videos from that time era.
Absolutely. I mean, I think about things like cable in the classroom. I don't know if you recall that in the state of California.
I do, yes. Yeah.
So really, like the ports program evolved in like a parallel line with some of those different ideas, but it really came out of this relationship between a group of state park interpreters and a group of K-12 educators. And they were really interested in going on a field trip to the Redwoods, somewhere up in the Humboldt County area. They didn't have the funding to make it there, and they still wanted the students to be able to engage in that experience. So somebody like me showed up in their classroom and built a huge satellite, and same thing out in the park, built this crazy machine, and somehow with lasers and the stars and planets aligning, they were able to make things work. And now it's so much commonplace. I mean, we're obviously not in the same place, we're in different places across the state, and we have the opportunity to still engage in like a live dialogue to further the purposes of education. And I think ports is directly in line with that kind of concept. I don't know, anything else that you think of when you see that video? The monitors really strike me as like a period of time,
No, exactly. Well, to me, it's that totally seems late 80s, early 90s, but it says ports launch in 2004. So I might have my years off, or I just might be getting too old because
I don't think you're wrong. Like what you're looking at was the equipment that was used by California State Park staff members in 2004. So who knows when that equipment was purchased or how old that equipment was. But what we like to say is we do what we can. We find the resources that we have access to, and we do what we can with those resources. And despite the fact that in 2004 you had my nice flat cap wearing Ranger out in the field there, typing away on his big old box, he was still able to engage with teachers and students in those classrooms. And, shout out to my friends, the Idelsons up in Monterey County. John Idelson was really influential in designing this program. He was a professor at California State Monterey Bay, and his wife actually was engaged in early onset of the, cable in the classroom program. So all kinds of cool connections as we evolve in the future of education, to where we've come from and where we're going.
No, it's great. It's great. I love the fact, again, that the evolution of learning is constantly changing.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what ports is all about. So let's learn more.
Yeah. So, I'm going to skip past that video there. So really a ports program looks like this, and has traditionally always looked like this, where there's teachers and students hanging out in the classroom. Whoops. And there's an interpreter up on the screen. So that's our nice flat cap wearing educator out in the field who's an expert. And over 1 million students since inception have engaged in this kind of an experience. So a lot of teachers that have heard about us since 2020 might not know that we've been doing this opportunity to engage with parks for quite a while now. And as teachers are moving back to their in-person classrooms, a lot of them are struggling to figure out, like, okay, how do I bring this back? But many are just incorporating it right into that in-person instruction. So we're really excited to see, teachers and students engaging again. And you may have gotten a sneak peek at this slide, and that's awesome. So our on-demand programs, those are those one-to-one one interpreter, one expert educator out in the field, and one classroom. Those are available from over 50 California state parks across the state. And that's really our flagship experience. So engaging with a one-to-one dialogue with those interpreters out in the field. And this year alone, it looks like we're anticipating to serve around 300,000 students through both virtual and in-person experiences. And you've heard me allude to this virtual and in-person stuff over and over and over again. What we like to call that is blended access. So you have blended learning in the classroom. In the parks, we have blended access where you can engage both virtually and in person. And Passports is, creating a system through direct collaboration with CUE to make that possible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a quick story. I started in this role as K-12 Access Project Coordinator on March 9th of 2020. So I showed up at my office. I got to know my colleagues on my second day. And then I was told to essentially never return as a result of the onset of the pandemic around March 12th and March 13th. And that gave us a lot of time to really think about, like, how do we go about reimagining the K-12 school field trip, and what are our goals to make that a possibility? And this is really what came out of that conversation. Was one, we want to create sustainable and equitable access avenues to engage with and both visit California state parks. Two, we want to be able to provide funding to make it easy for teachers and students to get to those parks, because we recognize that transportation funding is a barrier to access and, precedes the pandemic in many ways. We want to reimagine what it means to go on a K-12 school field trip, whilst simultaneously increasing awareness of California's natural environment, increasing environmental awareness in our K-12 students, and, like I said, creating those virtual and in-person opportunities. Lastly, we've really gone about curating the instructional resources for teachers and students that have been created statewide. So, you think about an educator out in the field who's grown from that big old block of a desktop back in the day to the Surface Pro that I'm connecting with you on now. There's been a lot of different platforms that have moved through the technology wheelhouse of society. And interpreters have put resources on almost every single one of those platforms. So what Passports has done is taken all of those different resources, put them into these scaffolded, low prep, customizable instructional resource toolkits that teachers can design their own experiences or steal from other good educators, because we know good educators steal from each other. One way that we've gone about doing this is these symposiums. We were hoping to have this symposium at Crystal Cove State Park on February 26th. We've had to change things abruptly this weekend just because of some different changes in staffing, but we're still looking forward to making this happen. And if you jump into this slide deck with me, you click here where it says, will you help us reimagine the school field trip? You can register with us and you'll receive more information on how you can get involved. A symposium is an opportunity for teachers and students, or teachers, to come on a field trip, to come out to a California state park, get to know a California state park interpreter like myself or some of those folks that provide those sports programs. Go do something fun, go do something recreational, similar to what teachers and students might do together on a field trip, and then get together and collaboratively design new opportunities to engage with resources from the park based off of those things that we've curated. So again, we've created these toolkits, just like this one that I'm going to click into right now. This is a 5E lesson design toolkit that's scaffolded. It shares with teachers, how do I build a 5E lesson? If you're not familiar with the 5E lesson model, it shares with teachers, how do I go about incorporating this into a virtual or in-person experience into my workflow? And then slide 5, I like to call my virtual visitor center. So that's where, if you're a teacher, you come to a visitor center, you're going to look around on the bookshelves, you're going to look at the exhibits, you're going to be inspired, you might design something new and amazing. So here you can dip into our virtual visitor center. You can pick from a whole selection of books that are broken down by grade level, reading appropriateness, broken down by the parks that they relate to. And they also identify whether there's diverse representation in the characters in these stories. And you can pick a book that's going to prepare your students for their virtual field trip. You can come in here and explore the different articles that we've curated from all across News ELA, from all across various, publications across the internet. You can come and check out these different videos that we've curated, because California State Parks has made videos, but so have so many other visitors that have come and visited California State Parks, presented on things like octopi, on things like plankton, on things like intertidal experiences in both English and Spanish. You can peruse this and figure out, okay, how am I going to hook my students? How am I going to get them excited? My personal favorite piece is this NGSS phenomenon bank. So we've created this bank of all of these different kinds of cool photos or videos that might act as a hook to really engage your students right at the start of a lesson, to get them connecting with their prior knowledge, being inquisitive, asking themselves questions. So I could literally show you any one of the pictures that's going to pop up in this free open access Google Drive here. And I could say to you, just like I said before, Joe, what do you notice? What do you wonder? What does this remind you of? You want to share any thoughts?
Well, the anemones are always colorful, right? And you have to ask yourself, why is that? They're not just colorful because they like being that color. What biological processes are doing this? That's a great hook on why is there so much colorful animal life in a shallow ocean bank, right?
And that's, direct connections to all these different NGSS standards across grade levels, whether it's like structure and function or anatomy and adaptations, or even human impact on the environment. These are ways that you can grab a local resource, grab something that's sourced from California that you could potentially go and visit and touch and feel and taste for yourself, and get your students excited about engaging with the park. These other resources that you'll find, these are like those big honkin' handbooks filled with lesson plans that you'll find that California State Parks has created over many years. You're also going to find other resources from organizations like our close collaborators, like the Crystal Cove Conservancy, or like the Save the Redwoods League, or like the Point Lobos Foundation, or the Friends of Columbia State Historic Park. These are all different nonprofit, affiliate, collaborating organizations that support the park, both in their interpretation education, but also in just their general access to the public. So again, that's like, these resources are available to you. And then if I scroll down below, as a teacher, I can read on how I can go about designing my lesson, utilize this aesthetically pleasing framework, and just get moving. I can also go in and take a look at, like I said, beg, steal, and borrow from my colleagues who are doing amazing work out there in the field, and see other pre-created resources. The way I would do that is come down here to instructional resources under the passports page. And you're going to see all of these select parks where we've not only created those virtual visitor centers, but teachers have created their own grade level banded resources through those collaborative experiences, like I was mentioning before, like the Crystal Cove Symposium. So we recently had a symposium out at Donner Memorial State Park. If I click into this 3 to 5 grade level folder here, I'm going to see all these different, or at least 3 different lesson plans, which are on totally different topics that all relate to Donner Memorial State Park. So if I'm going there virtually and I want to focus on something scientific, I can do that. If I want to focus on something historical, I can do that. If I want to provide my students the opportunity to focus on geology, if I want to give them an opportunity to write a historical narrative, I can jump into any one of these lesson plans and see what other teachers have come up with. So I'd encourage anybody who's on the call right now, if you're interested in these resources, if you're interested in these symposium experiences, come to our website, check out the passports page, check out the different activities and experiences that we've done out at these symposiums. Joe, this was when you and I were out at Refugio State Beach a couple of months ago, taking teachers kayaking, designing resources. This is out at Anza Borrego and Donner Memorial State Park. And we're really, looking forward to getting together at Spring CUE and facilitating a statewide symposium where teachers will be joining us on the Palm Springs Tramway Friday evening, cruising up over 4,000 feet up into Mount San Jacinto State Park from the desert floor of Palm Springs, going for an amazing hike of the Desert View Trail, and then joining us for what I would call a tea time out in the lounge, just to chat, network, get to know each other, and figure out how you can get connected with California State Parks. The following morning, Saturday morning, we've got space for over 150 educators to come together and design resources with us, engage in these symposium experiences. So come, meet us there. It's going to be the Ports Party this spring, CUE, and we're looking forward to it.
No, it's gonna be great, and I have to reemphasize, these symposiums are probably some of the best and most fun PD experiences that you're ever gonna have. If you've ever had a professional development day that you just wished would end, the Ports Symposium is a professional development day you wish could go on longer. It's the best time. And I want to make sure people know that if you want to get these resources, again, you can definitely go to the Ports homepage, which you see scrolling across the screen. But if you want to have access to the slide deck that Scott is sharing, just go to cuelearns.org/ports_SS for SuperShare. That is where you will get access to the slide deck and all the links that are embedded within there. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out because I know our listeners are like, where can I get all these resources? I want them now. That's where you can go get them and enjoy them. Now, but before we kind of close out today, Scott, I want people to know that, again, Ports is all about that blended access, learning about the parks in the classroom, or even taking a field trip with the Passports program up to an actual park. But right now, there's a special pass that's available to fourth grade students. And we're actually connecting that pass and all the different places you can travel to for our new season of History on CUE. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the California State Parks Adventure Pass, what it is, and how they can get their students to get one?
So, the California State Parks Adventure Pass came out of, it was really inspired by the Every Kid Outdoors or the Every Kid in the Park Pass for national parks that allows fourth graders the opportunity to come and visit a national park for free. And that's a day use pass. It's not an overnight pass, but it allows you to come out to the park. And like that, the California State Park Adventure Pass is this opportunity where fourth grade students can get a day use park pass for over 19 California state parks across the state. And it's pretty amazing. They're in all different regions, from as far as Silver Strand State Beach or Anza Borrego to even like Calaveras, Big Trees, Empire Mine, or Hendy Woods State Park, which we just visited in our most recent History on CUE broadcast. So like you said, we're planning to go on a virtual road trip to every one of these park sites, really get to know them, and prepare those fourth grade teachers and students for, going out and visiting some California state parks. Other things are happening on the horizon right now. There's some really amazing opportunities to engage with us at California state parks, whether it's through the Adventure Pass, whether it's through Ports, whether it's through a camping trip, whether it's through a family experience. Pretty soon you're going to be able to go to a California State Library and get something pretty neat that's connected to a California State Park, but we'll keep that on the DL for our listeners. There's all kinds of, like I said, amazing things that you could do. But I have so many different things that I could talk about related to the Passports project. But if I can share, one of the things that I'm most excited about is this connection that we now have with Cal Poly Humboldt University. So you would think that California State Parks, after providing 15 years, almost 17 years of these kinds of Ports programs, that they would have some data on the impact of those programs. But we've never had the opportunity as an institution to evaluate students directly on those experiences. And through collaboration with both Virginia Tech University and Cal Poly Humboldt University, we have the ability now to evaluate students on those virtual and in-person experiences. And what we're really trying to understand are, how does that affect students' environmental awareness, attitudes, and behaviors? So one of the questions that we ask is, does going on this field trip, whether virtually or in person, inspire you to do anything different in your life? And I made Wordles of those students who attended both virtually and through blended experiences on what their responses were. And those students that were able to actually visit the park, what they said is they want to go more. They want to go to the park more. And those students that engaged virtually, what they really said, they want to try to go. They want to try to go more, and they want to help more too. So engaging with the California State Park is this amazing opportunity to instill a sense of environmental stewardship and ownership in the landscape that we live in. And really now more than ever, with the effects of climate change, with the effects of the pandemic, we need to come together as a community to care for and protect each other, to care for and protect our environment. There's all kinds of other cool ways to connect with us. If I can put in a quick plug for my friends at the California Student Media Festival, they're going to be out at Spring Q2, and we're partnering with them this year to give out 2 $750 cash prizes to student media projects that are related to environmental stewardship. So you want to inspire some environmental stewardship? You want to make a video? You might earn $750. Make it happen. Come see us. But I'll stop sharing. I mean, Joe, like, what other kinds of questions or what other kinds of ideas can we share before we call it a day here on our SuperShare?
Well, I think the main call out here is for people, educators, to know that Ports exists and that the resources are literally at their fingertips, right? If they just go to the Ports homepage, they can peruse and look at all the parks that are already there with all the resources already curated by the park interpreters, by educators all across California, ready and waiting for your students to experience. I think people should know that the partnership between CUE and Ports is to get students at the parks through transportation grants. And so if you are looking for a way, if you're looking for a way to get students there, look for the symposium, experience it as an educator to see what your students would experience, create resources for it, and then go through the passports program to get that grant in order to get your students there on a bus ride and experience it as well. I really want people to understand that this is something that exists and that you need to experience. And the last thing I make sure people know is if you have questions about this, Ports will be at Spring Q. They will have a booth. They will have an experience. They're having a symposium. There's everything there. You can go up and ask them any questions you want about the Ports program right there. So, I mean, this could be an hour-long SuperShare, right? All the way through. And what I think we should do is maybe, after we have a few more symposiums under our belt, and after I've gone to a few more symposiums, I think maybe we should do a follow-up and maybe bring some educators who went to the symposium and talk a little bit about their experience as a follow-up SuperShare. I think I'd
love nothing more than that. That sounds like an amazing idea. And I know there are educators. Shout out to my friends out at the Butte County Office of Education and Northern State CUE that came out and joined us at Donner Memorial State Park recently. There's a lot of educators out there that would be willing to share, just like those who came out and joined us in Anza Borrego, whether you're at San Diego CUE, OC CUE, Inland Empire CUE. Is that a thing? Yeah. All of those different organizations, shout out to you folks who came out and helped us out in the park. My 7th grade teacher came out and joined us as well. What's up, Miss Landry? It's just an amazing and such a rewarding opportunity to support teachers as they work to make learning meaningful, whether it's inside their classroom, whether it's outside their classroom, whether it's virtually, whether it's on campus, whether it's in a California State Park. That's what we're here to do. And I always tell teachers, I really, as K-12 Access Project Coordinator, want to be seen as a member of your grade level team on California State Parks. So what can I do to help? How can I connect with you? And let's make some cool stuff happen. So.
Look, everybody got a free team member here, right? He'll do everything except just subbing your class.
And attendance. I don't do attendance, but it's all good.
Connect with ports. If anything that was said here, everything should resonate with you. But if anything on here resonated with you, definitely check out the ports homepage and make that connection. I know this is one of the highlights of my position here at CUE is being able to work with Scott and the ports team and be able to go on these symposiums. I mean, who would have thought camping as part of my job? Amazing. It's something that really resonates because the more and more we talk about students and learning, we talk about them being on the computer at a desk or somewhere inside. Now we're talking about getting them outdoors, activated outdoors, and really experience these natural wonders that are found in our great and giant state of California. So Scott, thank you so much for being on today's SuperShare. I can't wait for us to record another episode of History on CUE that is coming very shortly. And I just want everybody listening, connect with ports, come to Spring CUE, connect with ports, and just experience the joy of outdoors. And now, Scott, before we leave, I want people to know that they too can be on SuperShares. If you go to cuelearns.org/SuperShares, if you are a partner of CUE and want to share what your organization is doing and some amazing things you're doing for educators, come on. If you're a CUE member in the classroom doing amazing things with your students, which I know you already are, and you want to share a story or a pedagogical approach or a shift that you're making, go to cuelearns.org/SuperShares, sign up, and be on an episode with me as well. Scott, it's not painful. It's not too painful, right? It's pretty joyous to be on a SuperShare, right?
Yeah, perfectly painless, I would say. I wasn't on mute even one time. And
that's right. I didn't have to point to the shirt. That's right.
Yeah. And if you're an educator that wants to do one of these SuperShares and you've done a ports program, let's get together. Let's make something cool happen.
That'll be an extra special SuperShare episode, right? That'll be fantastic. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us in this episode. Again, if you have anything that you would like to see on SuperShares, definitely reach out to us at CUE Inc. on Twitter or at Joe Marquez70 on Twitter and tell us what you want to learn about. And again, if you are an educator willing to SuperShare, definitely go to cuelearns.org/SuperShares to sign up today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful week. And hopefully we will see you at Spring CUE March 17th to 19th in beautiful Palm Springs, California. Have yourself